Everybody.
Okay, good evening, everybody. Now we're studying Srimad Bhagavatam, the Canto 1, and this is chapter 9. This is the passing of Bhismadeva, which is one of the most amazing chapters in the entire Srimad Bhagavatam, in my estimation. Bhismadeva was one of the 12 Mahajanas. So he is an authority in the universe itself. So Bhismadeva is a Mahajana. And he says that Krishna is the original Narayan. So Krishna expands first into Baladev, and Baladev expands into Sankarshan, Aniruddha, like that. And then all the Narayans that are in the Vaikuntha worlds. And then from there, it expands into Vishnu in the material world, Mahavishnu, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, Kshirodakshaya Vishnu, in every atom, literally, and in every next to every soul, his super soul. And also he becomes demigods in many cases. Of course, he's Lord Shiva as well. Expands to Lord Shiva for the destruction of each universe, and Vishnu for the maintenance. And of course, Brahma is empowered by Vishnu to create in remote fashion. So there's a little bit of background. And if you don't mind, we're going to chant this one little prayer. If you know it, please chant along. Om Jnanatammarandasya Yananjana Salakaya Chakshurun Militanjina Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha. One more time. Om Jnanatammarandasya Yananjana Salakaya Chakshurun Militanjina Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha. We'll offer our respects to our spiritual masters. And then before we read, we chant this. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Bol. So very nice to have everyone. I hope you're all ready to read tonight, because that's what this chapter is all about, reading the story of Bhismadeva's passing. And Bhismadeva shows us how to die in this chapter. And the whole goal of the Srimad Bhagavatam is to understand how to terminate human life at the end of our life at the time of death, and to remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead and go back home, back to Godhead, and live an eternal life, Satchidananda Vigraha, with form, bliss, complete knowledge, and eternality. So that's the purpose of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So we'll start back just a little bit, and I'm going to ask everybody to read a little bit one at a time. I'll start out, if you don't mind, and then set up the chapter, and then we'll gradually share it around, and everybody can share it around. And at the end, if there's any commentary or question or any illumination that you have, you're welcome to share with us, okay? Is that fair enough? So if you don't mind, go ahead then and mute, if you would, because that will get everybody where everybody can hear. And then when it comes your time to read, please unmute. And when you finish, be sure you mute again. If you don't, Rangavati will get you. She's policing. So, and if you have anything you want to bring up, put it in the chat, and Rangavati will answer it and bring it up when we take a break for questions, okay? Yes, that's correct. This would be the first canto, chapter 9, first canto. Roshan had gotten the 7th canto, it looked like. So now we're going to get him back in the first canto. Okay, so in the last chapter, chapter 8, on text 47, I'm just setting this up a couple of verses before. It said, King Yudhisthira, son of Dharma, overwhelmed by the death of his friends, was aggrieved just like a common materialistic man. O sages, thus deluded by affection, he began to speak. King Yudhisthira said, "Oh, my lot, I am the most sinful man. Just see my heart, which is full of ignorance. This body, which is ultimately meant for others, has killed many, many phalanxes of men. I have killed many boys, Brahmins, well-wishers, friends, parents, preceptors, and brothers. Though I live 1,000,000 years, I will not be relieved from the hell that awaits me for all these sins." There is no sin for a king who kills for the right cause, who is engaged in maintaining his citizens. But this injunction is not applicable to me. I've killed many friends of women, and I have thus caused enmity to such an extent that it is not possible to undo it by material welfare work. As it is not possible to filter muddy water through mud or purify a wine-stained pot with wine, it is not possible to counteract the killing of men by sacrificing animals. As you remember, Krishna had gotten him to do 3 horse sacrifices just to absolve himself. But in chapter 9, the first text, it says, Sutta Goswami said, being afraid for having killed so many subjects on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, Maharaj Yudhisthira went to the scene of the massacre. There, Bhismadeva was lying on a bed of arrows, about to pass away. At that time, all his brothers followed him on beautiful chariots drawn by first-class horses, decorated with gold ornaments. With them were Vyas and rishis like Dhaumya, the learned priest of the Pandavas, and others. O sage amongst the Brahmanas, Lord Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, also followed, seated on a chariot with Arjuna. Thus, King Yudhisthira appeared very aristocratic, like Kuvera, surrounded by his companions, the Guyakas. Seeing him, Bhishma, lying on the ground like a demigod fallen from the sky, the Pandava, King Yudhisthira, along with his younger brothers and Lord Krishna, bowed down before him. Just to see the chief of the descendants of King Bharata, Bhishma, all the great souls in the universe, namely the rishis amongst the demigods, brahmanas and kings, all situated in the quality of goodness, were assembled there. All the sages like Parvata Muni, Narada Muni, Dhaumya, Vyas, the incarnation of God, Brihadvasa, I believe this is Bhardaraj, and Parasuraman disciples, Vashishta, Indrapradma, Mata, Trita, Gritsamada, Asita, Kashivan, Gautama, Atri, Kushika, and Sudarshan were present. So, by the way, if you want to know who these personalities are, you can go to the purport later, and Prabhupada gives a great explanation of each one of these personalities. Just like Parvata Muni, he said, is Narada Muni's just counterpart. He's also another transcendental spaceman traveling all around, and him and Narada generally go everywhere together. So you can read more about that. So, and many others like Sukadeva Goswami and purified souls, Kashyapa and Angirasa and others, all accompanied by their respective disciples, arrived there. So if somebody would like to pick it up on text 9, please do. Anybody? Raise your hand if you'd like to read.
All right,
okay.
I got you.
Roshana, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. And many others like Sukadeva Goswami and other purified souls, Kashyap and Angiras and others, all accompanied by their receptive disciples, arrived there. 9. Bhismadeva, who was among the best among the 8 Vasus, received and welcomed all the great and powerful rishis who would assemble there, for he knew perfectly all the religious principles according to time and place. Lord Sri Krishna is situated in everyone's heart, yet he manifests his transcendental form by his internal potency. This very Lord was sitting before Bhismadeva, and hence Bhismadeva knew of his glories. He worshipped him duly. The sons of Maharaj Pandu were sitting silently nearby, overtaken with affection for their dying grandfather. Seeing this, Bhismadeva congratulated them with feelings. There were tears of ecstasy in his eyes, for he was overwhelmed by love and affection. Bhismadeva said, "Oh, what terrible sufferings and what terrible injustices you good souls suffer for being the sons of religion personified. You did not deserve to remain alive under those tribulations. Yet you were protected by the Brahmanas, God and religion." So Brahmanas, God and religion protected them. As far as my daughter-in-law Kunti is concerned, upon the great General Pandu's death, she became a widow with many children, and therefore she suffered greatly. And when you were grown up, she suffered a great deal also because of your actions. In my opinion, this is all due to inevitable time, under whose control in every planet is carried, just as the clouds are carried by the wind. Oh, how wonderful is the influence of inevitable time. It is irreversible. Otherwise, how can there be reverses in the presence of King Yudhishthira, the son of a demigod controlling religion? Bhishma, the great fighter with a club, Bhim, the great fighter with a club, the great bowman Arjuna with his mighty weapon Gandiva, and above all the Lord, the direct well-wisher of the Pandavas. O King, no one can know the plan of Lord Sri Krishna, even though great philosophers inquire exhaustively, they are bewildered. O best among the descendants of Bharat, I maintain therefore that all this is within the plan of the Lord. Accepting the inconceivable plan of the Lord, you must follow it. You are now the appointed administrative head, and my Lord, you shall now take care of those subjects who are now rendered helpless. This Sri Krishna is no other than the inconceivable original personality of Godhead. He is the first Narayan. He is the Adya Narayan. Isa Vai Bhagwan Sakshat Adya. He is the first of all the Narayans, the supreme enjoyer. But he is moving among the descendants of King Varshi, just like one of us, and he is bewildering us with his self-created energy. So Dev Goswami is telling us that in the Vaikuntha planets, there are many spiritual planets, and each one is ruled by a Narayan. So there are millions of Narayans, but the Adya original, Sakshat Adya Narayana, is Lord Sri Krishna himself.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Roshan. We're going to pass that around. Thank you so much for that. That was very wonderful reading. Okay. Anybody else want to grab a little piece of that? I think we stopped there at text 20. Yeah. Yep. Or 19. Was it 19? It was
19. To start 19.
Yeah, start on 19. Whoever would like to pick up. Who wants next?
I can go.
Okay.
All right. You said start with 19?
Yes.
All right. O King, Lord Siva, Narada the sage amongst the demigods, and Kapila, the incarnation of Godhead, all known very confidentially about his glories through direct contact. O King, that personality whom out of ignorance only you thought to be your material cousin, your very dear friend, well-wisher, counselor, messenger, benefactor, etc., is that very personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. Being the absolute personality of Godhead, he is present in everyone's heart. He is equally kind to everyone, and he is free from the false ego of differentiation. Therefore, whatever he does is free from material inebriety. He is equibalanced. Yet, Despite his being equally kind to everyone, he has graciously come before me while I am ending my life, for I am his unflinching servitor. The personality of Godhead, who appears in the mind of the devotee by attentive devotion and meditation, and by chanting the holy name, releases the devotee from the bondage of fruitive activities at the time of his quitting the material body. May my Lord, who is four-handed and whose beautifully decorated lotus face, with eyes as red as the rising sun, is smiling, kindly await me at that moment when I quit this material body. Sutta Goswami said, Maharaja Yudhishthira, after hearing Bhismadeva speak in that appealing tone, asked him in the presence of all the great rishis about the essential principles of various religious duties. At Maharaj Yudhishthira's inquiry, Bhismadeva first defined all the classifications of castes and orders of life in terms of the individual's qualifications. Then he systematically, in twofold divisions, described counteraction by detachment and interaction by attachment. He then explained by divisions acts of charity, the pragmatic activities of a king, and activities for salvation. Then he described the duties of women and devotees both briefly and extensively. Then he described the occupational duties of different orders and statuses of life, citing instances from history where he was himself well acquainted with the truth. While Bhismadeva was describing occupational duties, the sun's course ran into the northern hemisphere. This period is desired by mystics who die at their will. Thereupon the man who spoke on different subjects with thousands of meanings and who fought on thousands of battlefields and protected thousands of men stopped speaking and, being completely freed from all bondage, withdrew his mind from everything else and fixed his wide open eyes upon the original personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, who stood before him, four-handed, dressed in yellow garments that glittered and shined. By pure meditation, looking at Lord Sri Krishna, he at once was freed from all material inauspiciousness and was relieved of all bodily pains caused by the arrow wounds. Thus all the external activities of his senses at once stopped, and he prayed transcendently to the controller of all living beings while quitting his material body. Bhismadeva said, "Let me now invest my thinking, feeling, and willing, which were so long engaged in different subjects and occupational duties, in the all-powerful Lord Sri Krishna. He is always self-satisfied, but sometimes, being the leader of the devotees, he enjoys transcendental pleasure by descending on the material world, although from him only the material world is created." Sri Krishna, oh, that good?
Yeah, that's good. We have about 47, I think 47 verses. I appreciate that. So if somebody else wants to grab a verse or two, that would be nice.
Okay, I will then. Oh no, Sue Devi, if you want to.
Yeah, please, Sue David.
All right, so okay, so Sri Krishna, this is started 3, okay?
Yes.
So Sri Krishna is the intimate friend of Arjuna. He has appeared on this earth in his transcendental body, which resembles the blemish color of the Tanmala tree. His body attract everyone in the 3 planetary system, upper, middle, and lower. May his glittering yellow dress and his lotus face, covered with painting of sandalwood pulps, be the object of my attraction, and may I not desire fruitive result. On the battlefield where Sri Krishna attended Arjuna out of friendship, the flowing hair of Lord Krishna turned ash due to the dust raised by the hoof of the horses. And because of his labor, bead of sweat wet his face. All these decorations, intensified by the wound dealt by my sharp arrow, were enjoyed by him. Let my mind thus go unto Sri Krishna. Uh-oh. Hare Krishna. I have to stop because my phone just cut off.
That's
Oh.
okay. That's very good. Thank you. So he's saying, let my mind thus go into Sri Krishna. So the next text is 35. If somebody wants to get that, Rangavati, I think you are
Yes,
chomping
okay.
at the bit.
In obedience to the command of his friend, Lord Sri Krishna entered the arena of the battlefield of Kurukshetra between the soldiers of Arjuna and Duryodhana. And while there, he shortened the lifespans of the opposite party by his merciful glance. This was done simply by his looking at the enemy. Let my mind be fixed upon that Krishna. When Arjuna was seemingly polluted by ignorance upon observing the soldiers and commanders before him on the battlefield, the Lord eradicated his ignorance by delivering transcendental knowledge. May his lotus feet always remain the object of my attraction. Has Sue Devi still got her?
No, I
Right.
think he's having some trouble there.
No, what happened? My phone battery gone down. I didn't even realize that.
It's okay. No problem.
Mhm.
So you want to keep reading Rangavati or Sudevi? I mean, it doesn't matter to me.
I could keep on for a bit.
Okay.
Fulfilling my desire and sacrificing his own promise, he got down from the chariot, took up its wheel, and ran towards me hurriedly, just as a lion goes to kill an elephant. He even dropped his outer garment on the way. May he, Lord Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who awards salvation, be my ultimate destination. On the battlefield, he charged me as if angry because of the wounds dealt by my sharp arrows. His shield was scattered and his body was smeared with blood due to the wounds. At the moment of death, let my ultimate attraction be to Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead. I concentrate my mind upon the chariot driver of Arjuna, who stood with the whip in his right hand and a bridle rope in his left, who was very careful to give protection to Arjuna's chariot by all means. Those who saw him on the battlefield of Kurukshetra attained their original forms after death. Shall I stop there?
Yeah, well, there's only a couple more, so give somebody else a shot at that if you'd like. Who else wanted to read? Jai Krishna's here. He said he was going to read tonight. Are you with us, Jai Krishna? He's all the way down in Dominican Republic, so he may not be getting a good signal.
He was going to come, but as you said, I think he's probably lost electric or something. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we have Bhavananda. I believe his hand was up. Text 40. Is Bhavananda there?
Okay, I'm here. I just go slow. Text 40. Let my mind be fixed upon Lord Sri Krishna, whose motions and smiles of love attracted the damsels of Vrajadama, the gopis. The damsels imitated the characteristic movements of the Lord after his disappearance from the Raja dance. At the Rashashri Yagna sacrifice performed by Maharaj Yudhisthira, there was the greatest assembly of all the elite men of the world, the royal and learned orders, and in the great assembly where Sri Krishna was worshipped by one and all as the most exalted personality of Godhead. This happened during my presence, and I remember the incident in order to keep my mind on the Lord. Now I can meditate with full concentration upon that one Lord Sri Krishna, now present before me, because now I have transcended misconceptions of duality in regards to his presence in everyone's heart, even in the heart of the mental speculators. He is in everyone's heart. The sun may be perceived differently, but the sun is one. Sukata Goswami said, thus Bhismadeva merged himself in the Supersoul, Lord Sri Krishna, Supreme Personality of Godhead, with his mind, speech, sight, and actions, and thus he became silent and his breathing stopped. Knowing that Bhismadeva had merged into the unlimited eternity of the Supreme Absolute, all present there became silent, like birds at the end of the day. Therefore, both men and demigods sounded drums in honor, and the honest royal order commenced demonstrations of honor and respect. From the sky fell showers of flowers. O descendant of Burgu Sanaka, after performing funeral rituals for the dead body of Bhismadeva, Maharaj Yudhisthira was momentarily overtaken with grief. All the great sages then glorified Lord Sri Krishna, who is present there, by confidential Vedic hymns. Then all of them returned to their respective hermitages, bearing always Lord Krishna within their hearts. Thereafter, Maharaj Yudhisthira at once went to his capital, Hastinapura, accompanied by Lord Sri Krishna, and there he consoled his uncle and aunt, Gandhari, who was an ascetic. After this, the great religious king, Maharaj Yudhisthira, executed the royal power in the kingdom strictly according to the codes and royal principles approved by his uncle and confirmed by Lord Sri Krishna.
So that's this chapter, you guys. So please, anybody who has any comment or any question, please offer that at this time. Okay. So, all right. So if we go back in this chapter, there are a lot of philosophical points that we're going to want to discuss. The first thing we know is that Maharaj Yudhisthira is lamenting, just like an ordinary man. And he's suffering because he's killed all these phalanxes of soldiers. Now the women are unprotected, he feels. And so therefore he does not feel even absolved of his sins. He feels like he's acquired sins. And he said, even if he lives 1,000,000 lifetimes, he may not be able to absolve himself. So Sri Krishna and he and the other great devotees who were still there, Kshatriyas and sages who came from all over really the universe to see Bhismadeva on the bed of arrows and offer their final respects to this great soul who is the sun really of religion. And they went to the battlefield where the massacre happened. And at that point, this whole narration that Bhismadeva gives takes place. So the first thing that happens when Krishna appears is that his eyes are filled with tears, right? He's feeling the presence of the Lord. Now, devotees see God, but those who do not know God, he does not manifest before them. There's a nice verse in the Bhagavad Gita and in 7:25 in the Bhagavad Gita, and it says, I am never manifest to the foolish and unintelligent. For them, I'm covered by my eternal creative potency, Yoga Maya. And so the deluded world knows me not, who am unborn and infallible. So it's just like this. If you want to go see the president, right, you have to be qualified to see the president. You could say, I want to see the president today. You can demand it. But unless you're qualified to see the president, unless you have some actual business with the president, you will not see the president. So Krishna is covered by Yoga Maya and by Maha Maya. With his devotees, he's covered by Yoga Maya. Yoga Maya is his internal potency of Maya. We're all actors on a stage. Krishna is the actual puppet master, and we're dancing for his satisfaction. This is described in the Vedas. Prabhupada makes this comment that everything is going on by the will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And these are called pastimes. So that even though Yudhisthira Maharaj felt just like an ordinary man, he's not an ordinary man. He actually is the son of religion. He is a pure Rajarishi. He was a saint and a king. He was a pure devotee of the Lord. And his brother Arjuna gave orders to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Drive my chariot here, take my chariot there, do this and that. And Krishna was obedient to him. As a matter of fact, we see that when Krishna came to the battlefield, the first thing he did was bow down before Bhismadeva and offer his obeisances to him. And other places in the Vedas, we see that when people would come to Dwarka to see Krishna, he would invite them in and wash their feet. One time even Brahma came and he was at the door. This is a wonderful story. He was at the door of Krishna's palace and the doorkeeper came and said, yes, who are you? He said, well, I'm Brahma. He said, okay, I'll tell Krishna. So he comes back and he said, which Brahma are you? He said, which Brahma? I'm Brahma. What do you mean? I'm Brahma. He said, 4 heads. So he goes back and tells Krishna and he invites him in. He said, oh, I'm sorry. I thought you might have been one of the other Brahmins. So he invited them all, some with literally thousands of heads. And Brahma began to realize his insignificance in the greater scheme of things. So there's a Brahma in every universe, and there are trillions and trillions of universes and unlimited numbers of planets and so forth and so on within those universes. So so Brahma got a little humility on that event. So great souls like Bhismadeva, who is one of the great Mahajanas. There are several, I think there's 12 Mahajanas all total. Narada is one of the Mahajanas. I think Brahma is a Mahajana. Prahlad is a Mahajana. These are the great souls who understand all the truth absolutely from the beginning to end. They understand it purely and they understand it in such a way that, for an example, when Prahlad Maharaj gave his prayers to Nrsingadeva after he killed Hiranyakashipu, his father, and was wearing his intestines as a garland, no one would approach Nrsingadeva out of fear. And so they nudged Prahlad to go up. And so Prahlad was so humble and sweet. He went up and offered the most beautiful prayers. If you've never read those prayers, you should read those prayers. They're very similar to what you're hearing Bhismadeva and Queen Kunti and these wonderful, great, pure devotees of God who are praying to the Lord in humility and in pure devotion. These are the prayers that we repeat to ourselves. These are the prayers that we study, because these are the prayers that bring the Lord satisfaction. And after Prahlad Maharaj gave his prayers, what did Nrsingadeva do? He placed his hand on Prahlad Maharaj's head and took him upon his lap. So we want to be taken upon the Lord's lap. We want the Lord's hand on our head. And it depends on what rasa that you have with the Lord. You can have one of 5 rasas, right? Santa ras, dasha ras. So what we're talking about here is dasha ras, right? So we're talking about he sees Krishna in his 4-armed form. He sees Krishna as Narayan. So if you go to Vaikuntha planets, that's what you hear in the Bible and other scriptures talking about. The streets are paved with gold, emeralds, diamonds, majesty beyond your wildest imagination, palaces, all of this. And the Lord in his awesome power as Narayana has expanded in each one of these Vaikuntha planets for the benefit of those in that particular rasa. Now, that if you look at the picture on the page, the first or the cover of the Srimad Bhagavatam, you'll see that all these Narayan planets are floating around, but in the center is Goloka Vrindavan. And Goloka Vrindavan is as big as all those planets put together. And in that planet, the more intimate relationships with God are found. Friendship, for an example, the cowherd boys. And we know that Arjuna was in that, Santaras, that Shakyaras, he was in that relationship of friendship. And then we also know that you can have parental relationship with the Lord. And even as the gopis in Radharani, those relationships are available with the Lord. We have a Swarup Siddhi. We have an original spiritual body. We were in the spiritual sky. We left there to come here. This is a temporary dream. And we think here that we can find happiness without Krishna. We were looking for the kingdom of God without God. Okay, God's here. He's the Virata Rupa. God's here. He's the modes of nature. God's here. He's time. He's Kala. He's your karma. God is all of that stuff. He's providing for all of these things for us. But yet he never leaves Goloka Vrindavan. He says, behold my mystic opulence. I am in it, yet I am not in it. Right? So that's why it says, fools deride me when I descend in the human form. They do not know my transcendental nature. Right? So Krishna discusses that in Bhagavad Gita over and over again. He also says that one who does know my transcendental nature and my appearance, comes back to the spiritual kingdom of God. For an example, he says in the 18th chapter, the very end, Krishna is very clear how you get back home. He says, Bhaktyamam abhijananti yavanyas chasmi tatbadha tato mang tatbato gyadva visate tad anantara. And one who understands the Supreme Personality as he is can understand the Supreme Personality as he is only by devotional service. And when one is in full consciousness of the Supreme Lord by such devotion, he can then enter into the kingdom of God. So obviously, Bhishma, Dave, is pure devotee of the Lord. As a matter of fact, everyone on the battlefield of Kurukshetra attained their original forms after the battle was finished. That's described in this chapter also. So the Lord comes again and again and again. Yada, yada, hidharma, shaglani, or bhavati bhartar, right? Pritranaya, saranam, vanashya, yacha, dushkatam. He's coming again and again to annihilate the miscreants, which he did wholesale while he was here. As a matter of fact, if you look when he went to Dwarka, he annihilated 21 other armies that were brought. We're going to read those stories much later. But this is right after the Battle of Kurukshetra. And he's preparing to go to Dwarka at that point in time, right? So he's preparing to go. And all of the devotees who were there, this is in the next chapter, but all of the devotees who were there, Gandhari, Kunti, Yudhisthira, their lives were lost. They couldn't believe if Krishna left, how could they survive? Would they want to survive without the association of the Lord? So Bhismadeva was so fortunate and such a wonderful, he was the best among the 8 Vasus. And because he was so wonderful in his devotion, he got to fight Krishna directly. He got to send showers of arrows to Krishna. This is a rasa. This is a relationship. This is a pleasure that they enjoyed together. And Krishna was very beautiful. His hair was covered in dirt and ash from the battle that ensued and the raging and the horses and the chariot going every direction. And Krishna vowed not to fight in that battle, yet he broke his vow to satisfy Bhismadeva. And what did he do? You know what he did? He got the chariot wheel and he's coming at him with his chariot wheel. He even loses his outer garment. And that brings even greater satisfaction to Bhishma. And to see Krishna so beautifully decorated with the wounds on his body and the blood that is coming from the wounds of Bhismadeva's sharp arrows brought them both transcendental pleasure beyond anything we can imagine. On the spiritual level, all these relationships are absolute, whether it's neutrality, friendship, servitude, parental, whatever it is, they're all absolute. And so the ecstasy that's derived is incomparable. There's nothing we can understand in this world that would give us an indication of the type of ecstasy we are heir to when we go back and get our original relationship with Krishna reestablished. So this is a pastime. I had somebody the other day who didn't understand that this was a pastime, and they were thinking, oh, how unfortunate. How can the Lord, if he's a good Lord, how can he allow so much death and destruction? Just like this Pierce Morgan, he's obviously an atheist. I don't know if anybody's listened to this guy. I tried for a moment and I couldn't do it. He's an Englishman. And what he was saying is that he doesn't have any interest in a God who would allow children to be born deformed, or people to be born in poverty, or people to be suffering, or people to be, and I understand from a place of ignorance, you might say that. Just like in World War II, the English women in London prayed that their husbands, who would go out on these air raids every night with the, what's the name of that? The Royal Air Force. Rangavati knows. So they would go out every night and they would pray, dear God, please bring my husband home. Please bring him home. And he would come back and they'd go, thank you, God. Thank you. You're so wonderful. I love you so much, God. But on the night that their husband didn't return and he was killed, their attitude changed. And all of a sudden they became agnostic or atheistic. And they're wondering, what's wrong with you, God? Didn't you hear what I told you to do? I told you to bring my husband home and you didn't do it. So what value does God have if he can't do what I'm asking? The Russians also used this in their atheism in the World War II. And they saw that all of these people were gathered in the churches and they're in there praying fervently to God, please protect us. Please send us daily bread. They were starving to death, literally. And so the Russian communist soldiers pull up in these trucks and they send the officer in and they go, are you hungry? And they go, yes. And so why has your God not brought you some food? Why are you worshiping such a God? If he won't feed you, what good is he? We have bread, we have wine, and we have cheese. Worship us and we'll feed you. You see how we try to establish ourselves as supreme in this world. We're here to be the most beautiful, the most wealthy, the most wise, the most famous, the most powerful. Yet we're going to be humble. We'll give a little charity, just, for the acknowledgement of it all. And we'll be worshipped among men. And in the Bible, it says that's the only reward you will receive. There will be no reward waiting for you in heaven if you seek your reward in the material world. So the funny thing about religion, most people are only religious around a funeral. You understand what I mean? They get very religious when somebody dies. They go, oh my God, we're going to die. Dear God, protect me. Dear God, protect. All of a sudden they become very devotional. Okay. So we're faced with death from the moment we're born. We have a limited number of breaths. No one knows what the next moment will hold. We are on a razor's edge. Prabhupada said it's danger at every step. He said, this is no place for a lady or a gentleman. All we see here are people hate one another. They're greedy. They want to take your land. They want to possess you. They want to own you. They want you to be their slave. Whatever it is they want in the material world still does not satisfy them, because they become frustrated. And then from frustration, anger arises. And from anger, wrath and madness. So are we seeing madness? Why? Because we can't possess the land we want. It's my land. I'll kill you. What are you doing on my land? This is not your land. Nationalism is drawn borders by men. God owns all of this. We're his stewards. We're his valet service. He's not our valet service. We don't just go to God, give me bread. You didn't hear me? I told you to give me bread. What kind of nonsense attitude is that? Do you think God will appear before you in that attitude? Very doubtful. As a matter of fact, you're unqualified to see God unless you become as a little child. You become humble. You become reverent. You become every word that comes out of the mouth of God in all of these shastras, you try to follow it. You give your heart and soul to it, just like Bhishma did. Just like Bhishma did. You fix your mind on God. You worship God. That is what we do in this world. And so by doing that, we can know God perfectly well. And we can see God standing before us. He promises you this in the Vedas. You can be understood as I am standing before you only by devotional service. So somehow or another, Bhismadeva set the example, and God was standing before him in yellow garments and beautifully shining like the sun, like the rays of the sun in his forearm Narayan feature. And Bhismadeva fixed his mind on the Lord in meditation and begged repeatedly that he would not forget the Lord at the time of his passing, right? So he set the perfect example of how we are meant to die. We're all going to die. That's one guarantee, taxes and death, right? You're going to pay taxes and you're definitely going to die. So if you're going to die, why not prepare yourself? The Vedas are all about preparing yourself to make this your last human death. Even if you go to Brahma bhuvana loka, loko yam karma bandhana, right? It doesn't matter if you go all the way to Brahma, Lord, you're going to die. So welcome to the material world. How does the pain and the cold and the suffering and all this feel to you? Not so nice, right? Krishna says, Matra sparsasti konteya satosna sukadugada. Sukaduka, whether you're good, bad, ugly, the material world is not your home. You have to become detached from this. You have to see yourself in your Swarup city, in your original spiritual form. You have to understand the first thing Prabhupada tried to teach us as his disciples was, you are not your body. He would take his literally cane and just try to beat it into our head. Do you not know you're not your body? You're not a man. You're not a woman. You're not from a nation. You're not a particular color. You're not a caste. You're none of those things. All those things regard to the 25 elements that your body is made out of, which will dissolve again into the earthly atmosphere and become something else. It's endlessly mutable. Endlessly mutable. So why take refuge in that which is temporary, knowing well to whom all these things belong? We want to take more than ours. We want profit. We want fame. We want adoration. We want distinction. That's what we want. We want God to be, we want him to be our servant. This is the opposite of what we should be looking to do. If we expect to ever go back home, back to Godhead, we have to flip it around. It's called dovetailing. Just so Bhishma explained, right, that where he was talking about detachment and attachment, right? So really, detachment is attachment to the Lord. So if you become attached to the instructions and the will of God, then that is perfect detachment from the material world. Right? So we don't have to give anything up. We use everything for Krishna. And as we use everything for Krishna, then we become dear to Krishna. And then Krishna reveals himself gradually to us. He says, as they surrender, I reward them accordingly. So Krishna is knowledge. He's forgetfulness. He's remembrance. And Krishna can give us all of those things if we can please God, simply with a little love. Like Prabhupada said, what do you have that God wants? Everything is already God's. It's like your son, okay? Your son, if he comes to you, he's a small child. He comes up, he's got a little flower in his hand, and he offers it to you. That's more meaningful to you than all the money in the world, right? That's more meaningful, more pleasurable to you than anything else you could ever imagine, because that little baby is showing you some affection and some love and some appreciation. Dear Father, please take this flower. Prabhupada said, offer patram pushpam phalam toyam yo me bhaktya paryayachati. Offer it with love and devotion, whatever little thing you have, give it to God. And so in this chapter, Bhishma does several things that I want to cover real quickly. and then we're going to open up for any questions you may have or any comments. But Bhishma accepts his situation as God's will. He calls it inevitable time, under whose control everyone in every planet is carried. That's what he says. So he's not lamenting, oh, I'm on this bed of arrows, I'm suffering so bad, I'm miserable, I'm this and that. Look at what we would probably do. Or Queen Kunti in her prayers. Instead of going, Krishna, I thought I told you not to bring me any miseries. Why do you put us in a house of lack? Try to burn us down. Why do we have to be cheated in gambling? Why do we lose our kingdom? They're not complaining like that. They're thankful to the Lord that all these miseries are coming again and again and again and again. And they pray for the miseries to come, because by those miseries, they are conscious of Krishna. And consciousness of Krishna will deliver one back to the spiritual sky, to the land of deathlessness, where the ecstasy is ever increasing. Not in this dark world of death, okay, and loss. So the wise man gives everything back to Krishna while he's alive. Everything's going back anyway at the time of death. But if you try to hold on to it and you grasp it with your dead clasping hands until the last moment in greed and thinking that you could possess this world, then you'll lose it all and you'll bear the karma. But if you give everything back in a wholehearted surrender to the Lord, in this lifetime, Krishna will deliver you back to the spiritual sky. Somebody asked Prabhupada, they said, well, this is a wonderful story about Bhismadeva. He remembered Krishna at time of death. But what if I'm too sick to remember Krishna? What happens then? And Prabhupada said, what did he say? Does anybody know? He said, don't worry, Krishna won't forget you. You may forget Krishna, but he won't forget you. So when you do some service for the Lord, there's even prayers in the Vedas that, please, Lord, remember the devotional service that I've done for you. Remember the selfless service that I've done for you at the time of my death. So he's saying that they were influenced by inevitable time, and all this had to come to pass by Krishna's will, and that's true, and they accepted it all. And then he goes on to say that he tells everyone in the presence of Krishna, because he has pure vision, he has a pure heart, he's Mahajana. He says, this Krishna, the one who's sitting here right now, this is the original, inconceivable personality of Godhead. He is the original first Narayan, right? Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Anadir Govinda Sarva Karana Karana. So even Brahma establishes all these truths, and we find out that these truths are replete throughout the Puranas. Specifically, this is the fifth Veda. This is completing the Vedic text. Sure, economy is good, artha, karma, moksha, all that stuff, that's all good. But none of that's taking you back home, back to Godhead. You don't want karma kanda. Karma kanda means I'm looking for a better birth. I want a prettier wife. I want a nicer house. I want a bigger bank account. I want people to respect me. I want fame in the world. I want profit. I want adoration. These are all demoniac tendencies. It's all demoniac. Where do demons go? Back to the spiritual world? Probably not. They come back in the world of passion amongst men, in the mode of passion, in the mode of goodness. They go to the demigods, still die, lose everything, come back to the earth, try again. Or if they fall into the mode of ignorance, because it is a razor's edge, they go down in the pool of darkness into the animal, lower species, aquatics, and so forth. And from that position is very, very difficult. So he says here, Bhismadeva says here, that this is the Supreme Personality of Godhead standing before me. He's acting like one of us, and he is bewildering us with his self-created energies. What do you think about that? So he goes on then to say that because he's the absolute personality of Godhead, he's present in everyone's heart. He is equally kind to everyone, and he is free from false ego and differentiation. Therefore, whatever he does is free from material inebriety and he is equal balanced. But in the Bhagavad Gita, he said, whoever's a friend to me, I'm equal to everyone. But whoever's a friend to me, I'm a friend to them. Wouldn't you be? I mean, somebody comes to you and does something nice. Don't you want to reciprocate? That's what this is. It's about love. It's about the pleasure of love. And by the way, is there a greater pleasure than love? Can you find it? No. Is everybody looking for it? Yes. Right? But they're looking for it in all the wrong places. You'll never find love in the house of the prostitute. Right? There's no love there. You'll never find love in the material world when people are doing it out of lust. They're bonding their bodies together, thinking that these bodies could satisfy. But what happens to the body? It rots. Is that good? Is that pleasurable? You like that? Do you like that? No. So if you look at Kalki, if you look at Maya Devi, she's so beautiful and attracts everybody to her. But when they get to her embrace, she turns to a hideous demon, chops off your head and drinks the blood. Right? So that's the material world. It's a lie. The world is a lie. And it's meant to keep you bound up life after life and away from Krishna. Maya's job is to keep you out of the spiritual sky. Right? Actually, her job is to deliver you to the spiritual sky, but she does it by punishments in the material world, by waking you up. There's one statement, Jeev Jago, go to Chandra Bole. In other words, wake up, sleeping soul, smack, smack, wake up. You're sleeping in the lap of the witch called Maya. The witch. We just had Halloween, and my best friend, she dressed up like a witch. It was not attractive. It's not attractive. Nobody wants to be cheated by a witch, I promise you. So what does Bhishma do when Krishna's there? He's waiting for the perfect time to leave his body. So he starts a discourse. All the great sages of the whole universe are there, and he's preaching to them. And they're rapt attention, and they're loving every second of it. And he explained Varna Ashram, how the general populace can be delivered back to pure devotion, back to the spiritual sky through work in the world, through spiritual work in the world and material work in the world as Sudra, Vaishya, Kshatriya, or Brahman, the head of society. And whatever caste, as brahmachari, as a young man, as a grihasta, as a householder, or vanaprastha in retirement, and then finally sannyas. So he also explained the divisions of acts of charity and what the activities of the king were in the world and what activities needed to be done for salvation. He described the duty of women. He described the duty of the devotees, both briefly and extensively. And he's laying on a bed of arrows, people. Would you say that's gravity? You say he has control of his senses? You think he's transcended sukha dukkha? You think he's gotten over that? I think so. You think he knows he's not his body? Yes. Does he know who the personality of Godhead is in front of him? Yes. Is he someone we should follow? Yes. Should we read his prayers? Yes. Every day. So he says in his prayers over and over again, he can die, of course, at his own will. So as he's talking, the sun goes into the northern hemisphere and he decides it's time to leave the body. So then what he did, he says, thereupon the man who spoke on different subjects with thousands of meanings and who fought on thousands of battlefields and protected thousands of men stopped speaking and became silent. Right? And he asked, he said, being completely free of all bondage, he withdrew his mind from everything else and fixed his wide open eyes upon the original personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, who stood there before him on the battlefield, dressed in yellow garments that glittered and shined. This is the image you should have when you meditate. These are the images we have to practice. Okay, all these yogis, Ashtanga yogis, and they're meditating on a candle. Stop. Fix your mind on the personality of Godhead. Okay? See God. Start at the feet. Don't start at the face. Start down low. Humble yourself. Wash the Lord's feet with your tears. Beg the Lord like Bhismadeva. Please never let my mind deviate, but always let my mind run to you, dear Lord. And he asked over and over again. And so he prayed transcendently to the controller of all living beings while quitting his material body. Bhismadeva said, let me now invest my thinking, feeling, and willing. Those are the three things we do. That's all we do. We have free will. We think, feel, and will. Done. That's it. That's all you do. Krishna gives you everything else. There's really nothing else you're doing here. Krishna's doing everything else. The food is digesting. You don't know how. The energy's coming. You don't know how. All these subtle things. You look out the sky. You're seeing light that came from 8 billion light years away. It's just now arriving to your eyeball, and you're only seeing 5% of the known universe. Come on, people. God is great. God is great. He's greater than anything we can know. Fix your mind on God. Let the world have its way. Let the world have its way. But you have your way by fixing your mind on Krishna. So he says, let me now invest my thinking, feeling, and willing, which were so long engaged in different subjects and occupational duties, in the all-powerful Lord Sri Krishna. He is always self-satisfied, but sometimes being the leader of the devotees, he enjoys transcendental pleasure by descending to the material world, although from him only the entire material world is created. So he goes back to Krishna, and he goes back again and again, and he starts remembering these different things. And he starts talking about how he sees Krishna's hair ashen, how his sweat is beaded up sweat, how his decorations, how he's lost his outer garment, how his wounds are having some blood. This is all a pastime for Krishna. Krishna does not have a material body like you and me. He does not bleed. He's not subject to karma like you and I are. Right? It's just like the air doesn't mix with the pot. The air may be in the pot, but the air doesn't actually really mix with the pot. It's separated from the pot. So Krishna's here like the air. He's in it, but he's not of it. Okay? So he goes on and he says, at the very end, he goes, all these soldiers' lifespans were diminished by the will of the Lord. This was done simply by his looking at the enemy. Let my mind be fixed upon that Sri Krishna. And he says, may his lotus feet always remain the object of my attraction. So may he, Lord Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who awards salvation, be my ultimate destination. On the battlefield, he charged me as if angry because of the wounds dealt by my sharp arrows. His shield was scattered and his body was smeared with the blood due to the wounds. At the moment of my death, let my ultimate attraction be to Sri Krishna alone, the personality of Godhead. I concentrate my mind upon the chariot driver of Arjuna, who stood with a whip in his right hand and a bridle rope in his left, who very carefully gave protection to Arjuna's chariots by all means. Those who saw him on the battlefield of Kurukshetra attained their original forms after death. Let my mind be fixed upon Lord Sri Krishna, whose motions and smiles of love attracted the damsels of Rajadam. The damsels imitated his characteristics of the Lord after his disappearance from the Rasa dance. They missed him so bad, they all started acting like Krishna. If you go to Vrindavan, you'll go by the houses, they're all doing skits about Krishna and the gopis and God knows what else. And they're out there dressed up with a flute. You've seen this, Roshan. I'm sure you've probably seen this before. Yeah. So it's very wonderful. So that is basically what I have for you tonight. And if you've got anything for me, let me hear it. If you got any questions or comments you'd like to add, please add. This is a wonderful story. It's always so dear to our hearts because now we know how to die. Know how to die. And whatever you think of at the time of death, that you shall attain without fail. Krishna says that in the Bhagavad Gita. So it's so important that we think of Krishna in this way, in a wonderful way. Of course, we think of Krishna in 2 arms. He liked the 4-arm. He's Kshatriya. He wanted to go there. All right. So what other questions or comments do you have? We're running a little over 8.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hari Bol.
And Hare Krishna to all the devotees. This discussion of Bhismadeva, who is a great Mahajan, one of the 12, and his passing away is one of the most beautiful, it's unbelievably mind-blowing, beautiful literature. I cannot say it's the best, because Srimad Bhagavatam is best everywhere, but it's so good. It captured my mind for many, 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 many years. And let me show you something. Yeah. I don't know whether you can see that.
Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yes, we see it.
I just wrote 40 pages on that.
Oh.
And this chapter is in one of my pages.
Oh.
And I'm so enthralled, and I'm so crazy, ecstatic, gone nuts or mad. It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful.
Well, you know, there's a verse that Krishna says that his devotees relish at every moment these pastimes, and just talking about the activities of the Lord, the adventures of the Lord are magnificent. We don't need another idol. We don't need Superman. We don't need Spider-Man, Batman. What is that nonsense? Everybody's looking for Krishna, and they're creating some little aspect of God and creating some illusion that's a fiction. We don't need fiction. We have drama beyond anything you can imagine, beyond the Iliad of Homer, all of that stuff. None of that stuff can Shakespeare. They can't hold a candle to the Vedic literature, especially these Puranas.
Bhagavatam 1,000 times and still with the enthrall and excite us. But you cannot read Shakespeare anything but 1,000 times.
I know. They would rather read the newspaper about everybody being shot on the street and robbed every day than hear these wonderful pastimes of the Lord.
The description is so beautiful that one should meditate in the same way as Bhismadeva did. Let your supremely attractive face be my destination. Let your lotus feet be my ultimate destination. And unbelievably beautiful. And in the description of his yellow glittering dress, just meditate on the dress itself makes you crazy, makes you ecstatic. It's mind-blowing. I think only a devotee can understand the feelings, the ecstatic feelings another devotee experiences. I don't think a non-devotee can understand that.
Well, the problem with the non-devotee is they're in the lower mode, and so therefore they're bound up with a certain set of pleasures that surround their senses. So, for an example, if you're in the mode of passion, you have a certain set of pleasures that you're looking for. If you're in the mode of goodness, different set of pleasures. And if you're in the mode of pure goodness, Sudasattva, that's a different thing. So what we're relishing right here, right now, is Sudasattva ecstasy. We're feeling the pleasure of that. And anybody can. It's not like it's some big mystical hidden thing.
No.
Krishna wants you to feel this. He comes to the material world over and over again to display these adventures, to attract your mind back home, back to Godhead. He wants you to come. And by the way, wherever he goes, however he does, from the time he's in Vrindavan to when he goes to Dwarka, to when he goes to kill Kamsa, all of that, it says that Bhishma was saying, now I can meditate with full concentration upon Lord Sri Krishna now present before me, because I have transcended the misconceptions of duality, right? So he doesn't see that anymore. He doesn't see Krishna as a material body or this or that. Some people never actually acknowledged that Krishna was God because they were in such maya and such illusion. Krishna didn't reveal himself. But what did he do with Mother Yasoda? He showed the universal form in his mouth. What did he do with Arjuna? He showed the universal form on his chariot. You can see God. You can know God. God is not hiding from you. You're hiding from God.
That is
But if you want to go to God, then what you have to do is get rid of these misconceptions in your heart and this duality that is keeping you bound up in this, all these anartas and these misgivings and these doubts. They're causing you to go off the track. You've got to get a true spiritual master that can bring you this information unchanged. And then, by the way, all doubts are satisfied. And you can feel that higher taste that Roshan Prabhu was talking about. You can actually feel that. You can feel the ecstasy well up. You can feel your eyes filled with tears when you hear these stories. He says Krishna is there even in the heart of the mental speculators. A mental speculator, Gyanis. They're busy sitting in an armchair thinking, what is God? Postulating philosophy, arguing philosophy. We have no argument. We accept whatever Krishna wants, done deal, finished.
We accept Brahma Samhita 5.1, Ishvara Brahma Krishna Satstanan Vigraha. Anadir Adir Govinda, Sarv Karan Karan. He's the source of everything. He's the cause of all causes. He is Aham Sarvasya Prabhaha. That is Bhagavad Gita 10.8. And the one you just quote, like Adya Narayana Puma. Because Bhismadeva really opens the eyes of people who are confused. They try to equate the name Narayana, Vishnu with Krishna. They do not understand that from Krishna comes Balram, his first expansion, then Mahashankarshana. And from Mahashankarshana comes Mahavishnu, Karanodakshai, Garbhodakshai, Krishodakshai, and all the Rudras come from there. And so he's telling us he's the Adya Narayana Isavai Bhagwan Saksha. So I think all glories to Prabhupada.
Prabhupada, I love that. Thank you so much. One thing, Roshan, I want to add. I want to think something I want to say that add to what you were just saying, which I love, is that when Krishna entered the arena in Kamsa, everyone saw him differently from their own perspectives.
Yes, yes.
Krishna accepts the worship of everybody, even if you're Jnana or whatever. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, whether you're filled completely up with material desires or you have no material desire at all, you should come to me. Because Krishna is the self-sufficient supplier of all necessities to all of us since time immemorial. Nothing you have is yours. It's been a gift to you by Krishna, even the body that you're living in, everything that you have. So give it back to Krishna. That's called Bhakti Yoga. And how do you give it back? You give it back in your heart and your soul with love and devotion. You ask that your mind be fixed on the Lord. You appreciate what the Lord has done. You appreciate the activities of the Lord. First, you must know what they are. So therefore, we invite you to come again and again to this Bhagavatam class and share your illuminations and the thoughts of these great Mahajanas that we're going to be reading about as we go along. And then you can see God actually from your own perspective, can't you? Like
Prabhupada used to say, Shamshan, the Ragya, the one you just mentioned, that is funeral home or cemetery renunciation. people think, oh, I have to give up everything now.
You got to give it up now. Oh, that's wonderful. Well, please, I hope that this class is widely dispersed and distributed everywhere so everyone can also enjoy this wonderful pastime of the Lord with Bhismadeva. And they were having a blast. They were having the biggest time. This whole thing was an orchestrated thing. And nobody dies.
Yeah.
Nobody's dying.
Yeah, eternal souls.
Yeah, if you think you're the body, Krishna says, well, then what are you worried about anyway? The body always dies.
Well, in chapter 2, text 12, he says, Na tu aham jatu na asam, na tuam na janardipa, na chaib na bhavishyama, sarve vayam athapara. 2:12. So never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these things, nor shall there ever come a time when we shall cease to be. That alone is an eye-opener. That alone is sufficient to call world peace. We don't need to have to fight for caste, race, creed, religion. We are eternal souls.
So the point is to see the soul riding on the chariot of the body. The soul is in the heart, and then the soul leaves the body, and Bhishma was preparing to leave his body at that moment. You will also come to that point in life. So therefore, these lessons that we're learning that Krishna is giving us now are the most valuable lessons you could ever have. And these are the lessons that will deliver you back to your eternal spiritual life and take you out of this wheel of samsara, of suffering. Krishna says the Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart. He is directing the wanderings of all living being entities who are situated as if on a machine made.
1861.
Yep, there it is. 1861 is my favorite ones.
Yes,
Because he distinguishes the body from the soul in that verse also. And he says that you're riding on a machine made of material energy. In the next life, maybe you'll be an elephant. That's a bigger machine. Maybe you'll be an amoeba. That's a smaller machine. None of that matters. What matters is you have this moment, you have this time, and now you've dedicated it to hearing about the activities, pastimes, the entourage, the friends, the relatives of Krishna, the activities of Krishna, Krishna's holy names, his servants. All of that will bring you into a state of Krishna consciousness. And that Krishna consciousness, once you become addicted to that higher flavor and that higher taste, then you can't go back.
The whole world is void.
So that's it, guys. Thank you so much for coming to the class.
One more.
Okay.
Prabhuji, I need your blessing. I need Rangavati's blessing, Bhavanand's blessing. I am writing a book, and it's basically on all the different scriptures which Prabhupada has given us. So Prabhupada is my guru, and I need all your blessings. I'm about halfway through. I've written about 300 pages. Need to write about 150 more. Then I want to get some advice from you and everybody as to who will be the best publisher, how to get things moving. I did speak to Nityanand Prabhu. I went to his home in Dallas. He advised me about an editor in California, which town? San Diego. I spoke to him, but I'm an older gentleman, so I'm not adept to computers and typing and all those things. So I'm writing everything, and I've got my sister who said she will try to transcribe or do something for me. But in the end, I would need the permission from the Bhaktivedanta Book Trust to get the permission to quote so many of Prabhupada's books and his devotees' literature. And also, I would like to look at the Bhaktivedanta photo library to put some photos in the book. And I've decided that the hardcover will be orange-yellow with Krishna in the center with a big peacock feather, and there will be black boxes with golden lettering, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna on top. I'm choosing the inside cover words, outside cover words. I need all of your blessings.
Well, let me offer this to you, and I want to thank you so much for writing the book, and I want to thank you so much for meditating on publishing books that would change the world. Prabhupada was trying to establish a revolution, a spiritual revolution. And so the book that you're writing is necessary for that purpose. You're going to want to talk to Rangavati. She's working on some stuff right now, and she may have some good suggestions for you about publishing. And then, of course, you have our blessings, but we require your blessings as well. So if you promise your blessings, we'll give ours. How about that?
Tiny soul, what blessing can I give?
Oh, you have plenty. Don't worry.
Yes, I'm
Very nice.
I'm actually working with a devotee. She's a Prabhupada disciple. She's had 30, 40 years in publishing, and she has her own company who publishes books from different Prabhupada disciples and other devotees, because I've been doing some editing for her, and she's an award-winning designer on book design as well. So she's really good. So I can help you with that. When you're ready and you've got everything ready, and get your sister to type it up, then we can get going on that.
So I'll come to your place. So you're not too far. You're about 4-6 hours away.
No, from you, what would you say, Bhavananda?
What?
From Dr. Sharma from Texarkana, No, we're probably about 9 to 10 hours from you.
Oh, okay, just take 2 days for me.
Yes.
Well, we'll figure it out. Okay. We'll make sure that we're able to, that we'll transcend time and space and help you in any way that we
Don't
can.
forget this Krishna's home, your home also. Anybody, whenever you pass this way, do drop down, come and stay with me.
Oh, thank you very much. And
We love to talk about Krishna.
you are always welcome here as well. We're trying to establish a place where people can come and we can all be together from time to time for these special festivals and purposes. So we couldn't be happier than to have you here tonight. We're so very, very pleased and honored that you came, and appreciate your insight and also your reading. And we want to thank everybody who came. But in the essence of time, it's 8:21. We got to close this class. So thank you, everybody. I'd like to finish by saying together, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, 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 Hare Hare. Thank you so much, everyone. I'll see you next Monday. Hare Bol.